Good afternoon, guys. It's Working, bringing you a quick update on Bitcoin. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're looking at Bitcoin to the US dollar. This is the 4-hour chart on Bitfinex, guys. And as I showed you yesterday, Bitcoin was operating within this larger wedge. I told you guys a larger move looked like it was coming. We certainly have seen that move. As I told you guys, if price did end up breaking up, we were going to be watching this prior wick here, which is sitting at about 6540, somewhere thereabouts, guys. Price did break up. We can see that it's found resistance right there into that order block, as we can see. Now, this could be a bear trap, or excuse me, this could be a bull trap, trapping people long, and then market makers turn the price right back around. I think we'll know very, very soon. We are still noticing that we're trading within this range. I've showed you guys that we're trading within this range between 6540 and mostly between 6540 and 6280, as low as 6100, but the majority of trading has been within this range right here. And we are still maintaining that range, guys. So we haven't really broken out of anything yet. I'm going to wait and see if price is able to break above this 6540 zone, or whether or not it just starts consolidating, or whether or not this thing just breaks right back down. For now, all eyes are going to be on this 6540 zone. If price is able to break above this decisively, and by decisively I mean by more than a wick, if I can see a 4-hour candle that opens and closes above 6540, excuse me, that'll be a decisive break in my opinion, guys. And then what I would like to see, I'd like to see price come back down, retest this 6540 zone, and I want to see it act as support. If that does happen, I'm going to start to get fairly bullish. I think in the short term, if that does happen, guys, very likely we're going to come up and test this 6750, as I told you yesterday, and that's going to be a major, major test in my opinion. If price can get above 6540, that's the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders. If that can happen, guys, I think there's a very high probability that we're going to come up here and test this prior high at about 64.20, somewhere thereabouts. And if price can break above 64.20, guys, I'm going to get very, very, very bullish here in the short term. In the meantime, guys, I'm watching this zone, expecting to see price either start to move sideways, consolidate, or bounce largely off this zone. If it does, this isn't a bad place if you wanted the dollar cost average very slowly into a possible short, expecting price to break back down, possibly a quick scalp targeting 6280. That'd be a logical trade in my opinion, but I would keep your stops very, very tight. If volume does increase here, volume has been very weak so far. This hasn't been much of an increase in volume, but if volume does start to increase and does push price above 6540, knowing that it could be a very quick rise up to 6750 or even higher. So I would, if you do enter a short position here, I'd play it very safe and keep my stop very tight at about, at least at the highest, I'd put my stop as about 6,600 in my opinion. But again, this isn't financial advice; it's completely up to you. But just kind of trading within this range here, guys, has been very, very profitable over the last month, and it could be profitable again going forward. Until price does break above this 6540, guys, I'm going to assume that there's a very high probability we're going to come back down. If and when price does come back down, I think we're going to be retesting the 6280. If it continues to trade within this range, so be it. If it does break below, all eyes are going to be on the 6100. And as I told you guys, if 6100 breaks, I think we're going to be testing all-time lows very, very quickly. And depending on how price reacts to those all-time lows, guys, we're going to know whether or not we're going to be getting into a much deeper bear market, or whether or not we get some kind of a bounce like we had here, a very quick wick, and then a complete reversal and coming right back up. If we zoom in here on the daily chart, we can see this candle right here was a almost this inverted hammer. Inverted hammer. This was a kind of a reversal candle. Now we didn't see much. We didn't see a real big bounce. Kind of traded, continued to trade within this range. And I can't really label this an inverted hammer, guys. It kind of looks like it, but not really. I know some people have called this out. We have this wick down here, so technically not really an inverted hammer. Still, though, that is kind of a bullish candle, especially given where it was. It did show somewhat of a trend reversal, and you know, we saw that just follow through today. As I said, though, the real test is going to be here at 6540. Coming at our indicators, guys, we can see that the MACD starting to trend up. This is on the daily. MACD starting to trend up. That's a bullish sign. We've got the MACD line curling over. Signal lines coming down. Hopefully we can get across here soon. I'd like to see price go into bullish territory on the daily chart. That'd be an extremely bullish indication if that does end up happening. Looking on the weekly. Excuse me, weekly basically is just flatlining, moving sideways, as I showed you guys last time, guys. I do think that this is only going to last so long. We're going to get a major break in one direction or another. I do still think that that is coming here in the short term. Looking at, let me come back out here to the weekly. Looking at our weekly, guys, this is what I'm really curious about. I'm wanting to see I'm wanting to see the RSI, the weekly RSI, break out of this wedge in one direction or another. When that does happen, I think that's going to be a very good indication of either the beginning of a bull run or the beginning of much lower prices, but depending on which way price breaks. And I'm just going to keep an eye on it for now. Of course, this would signal that we're going to be trending up here. in the next week or so. That's what this bounce would signal. That is that. Now, does that does that have to happen? Absolutely not. But you know, it's not a bad idea if you you know, it certainly looks like that's a real possibility if we are just looking at this wedge pattern here. So we'll have to wait and see how that ends up playing out, and keeping our eyes on the support resistance area there. Looking at our stock on the weekly, I pointed this out last time. Still consolidating, still moving sideways, and does suggest a possible break in one direction or another very, very soon. This weekly candle so far is looking very, very bullish. Come back here and look at our, that's EOS, sorry guys, here we go. That's what I want. Bringing up our moving averages, we can see that prices is on the 4-hour. We can see that price is testing the upper Bollinger Bands here, which would suggest a possible correction here in the short term. We'll see if that does happen. We just broke above the 55-day EMA on the 4-hour, as well as above the 50-day moving average. Both of those are a very bullish sign. I'd like to see price come up here and at least test this 200-day moving average. If we can test it or even come above it, that's going to be an extremely bullish sign in my opinion. So we have to wait and see how that ends up playing out, guys. But for right now, if we can hold above the 50-day moving average or hold above this 55-day EMA, that's going to be an extremely bullish sign here on the 4-hour. Looking at the daily, we can see that price just rose above the 8-day EMA. So what I'd like to see is price get above this 21-day EMA. Typically, that's what signals a trend reversal. So if we can get on the daily chart, we can get price coming above this 21-day EMA, guys. That's going to be a very bullish sign in my opinion. And we can see that we do on the daily chart have plenty of room to rise, especially with our Bollinger Bands. We bounced off the bottom here, starting to trend up, and let's see if that trend does continue. If we check our short positions, this is on the daily. Shorts remain very, very stacked. They aren't phased much at all by this latest rise, guys. In fact, shorts continue to somewhat rise. If we go and zoom in here to the 4-hour chart, we can see they've just been basically moving sideways, and in the last 12 hours they've actually risen. So shorts, retail investors still think that this price is going to come down. If we look at long positions, they started to stack briefly, but they're coming right back down now. I think people are taking quick scalps, thinking that this is just a temporary trend, and then it's going to reverse course and come right back down. And you know, who can blame them? This does tell me that market makers still have a lot of incentive to bring price up, so this could be a bullish sign here in the short term. We're just gonna have to wait and see how this plays out, guys. But again, that could be I think market makers are going stop hunting. They haven't been able to take it out quite yet, and we'll have to wait and see how that kind of ends up playing out, guys, to see if they're going to be able to, or to see if the retail investors are going to keep their positions. And then at that point, it's going to be a standoff between market makers and retail to see which direction they take this. We all know that market makers want this price to come lower. We know institutional money is coming in, and we know market makers want to buy in before institutional money gets in, and they want to buy in at much, much lower prices. However, we all know this is a zero-sum game, as I pointed out yesterday, guys. So with retail stacking their bets on shorts, expecting price to go lower, it's really a standoff to see what's going to end up shaking out here. And I think in the short term, guys, as I said, 6540 temporary break up to 6750 would be likely if that does break. If we break above 6750, I think it'd be a fairly quick rise up to 7400 to test the prior highs. If we come out here and look at the bigger picture, guys, you know, we could look at this one of two ways. We either have a WXYXZ pattern, which would have us in an ABC correction right now. So we'd be looking at an A, B, and back down for the C. That's a real possibility. If I come back down here and I look at this chart, you know, how could I count this as anything other? If this is an ABC pattern, excuse me, how can I count this as anything other than an A, B, and then back down for the C? And just looking at this chart, that C is going to more than likely come down to possibly below this prior low if that does end up breaking down that way. And if that does happen, that's going to completely invalidate this as a wave 1, if that happens. And so if that does invalidate that as a wave 1, what does that make that? That would make that a larger, if we look at the larger picture here, that would make that a B wave, and then we'd be coming back down for the larger C wave. So what would that make this? That would make all of this, rather than an ABC, we'd be looking at more of a, where we go, we'd be looking at more of a 1, sorry guys, I drew that in the wrong, but we'd be looking at 5 waves down basically. What we'd be looking at possibly is something like this, and it could go much, much, much lower. You can see if that's the correct count. Now I could dig in here and pick it apart. I could look at this right here and say, you know, if I come down here and I look at the hourly, could I come in here and I count this as possibly a 1, 2, you know, down for the 3? Actually, it'd probably be down for the 3, coming over for the 4, and then back down for the 5. Yeah, is it beautiful? No. Is it technical? Yeah. So again, we'll just have to wait and see how this ends up playing out, guys. But here in the short term, we could count this possibly as an ABC, and then turning right back around. So let me get my Elliott count for you from the bullish. Okay, so looking at this from a bullish point of view, I could count this as an A, B, and C, very shortened C wave there. And then what we'd be looking at, we'd be looking at 5 waves up. So let me come back in here to the hourly, and these would be more sub waves. So we'd be looking at something like an 1, 2, and now we're coming up for the 3, 4, and 5, which would equal all one larger subwave, or one larger primary wave 1. These would be 5 subwaves up. Where is this? If this count is correct, what can we target for our wave 3? Our target for our wave 3 would probably be something right about here. The 1618, so we'd be looking at something right about here, and that would make logical sense, guys. I told you this would be a strong resistance, 6750. At wave 3, it would be a perfect hit on the 1618 fib, which would be a majority of wave 3. There's a high probability that wave 3 is going to hit that zone, the 1618, and that just coincides nicely with the 6750 zone. So we could be coming up 3, 4, and then come back up for the 5 to break above this 6750 if this count is correct, guys. So again, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there. That just showed you the possible bullish possibility, and we're just going to have to wait and see how this plays out. But this third wave here is looking rather impulsive, and we know that third waves are often the longest and the strongest, and that certainly would make sense with what I'm seeing here. But we've got to validate that by taking out this 6540 zone. If we don't take out this 6540, that'll completely invalidate this count, and then my bearish count is going to be probably more than likely the case. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I would appreciate an upvote, re-steam, or a like, depending on where you're viewing this. And until next time, guys, please trade safe, take care of yourselves. This is Working, signing out.